Welcome back to Drama with Ted and Tina, where vows are broken, apologies are weaponized, and redemption shows up dressed like a bad idea. This is part 6 of our saga, and it's the most gut-wrenching one yet. Today's story closes the chapter on a husband who didn't just survive betrayal. He autopsied it with receipts, courtroom ink, and an emotional sledgehammer. From silence to signatures, radical honesty to personal collapse. This one ends not with a bang, but with a freedom so earned, it hurts. Buckle up, because when Emily finally spoke, it wasn't love, it was a list of sins. And forgiveness? That left the room a long time ago. So Emily and I met at my lawyer's office. Her lawyer was there, mine was too, and a notary was pacing around like she regretted every career decision that led her to this circus. My mother-in-law was in the waiting room, crying. I hugged her, because apparently that's what you do when your soon-to-be ex-wife's mom is falling apart over the train wreck her daughter caused. Way to set the tone, MIL. My dad sat down next to her and did his best impression of a polite stranger at a bus stop. They never really talked much before, so it wasn't emotional for him, just awkward in that I should have brought a book sort of way. I left them there like two mannequins on a sad double date, while I walked into the most expensive therapy session I never asked for. We stood in the conference room waiting for the notary, who'd ducked out to let her unborn baby play hacky-sack on her bladder. Silence bloomed like a fungus. So naturally, I cracked a joke. Asked Emily if she wanted to leg wrestle for the air fryer, because I'm a dumbass who can't leave dead air alone. She stared at me like I'd just sprayed diarrhea into a champagne fountain. You'd think I'd slapped the notary with a trout. Total punchbowl turd moment. No one laughed. Emily blinked once, like the software was buffering, and then returned to quietly mourning the funeral of our marriage while the lawyers pretended to read something very important on their phones. Eventually, we sat down and began the paperwork shuffle, signing here, initialing there. Emily cried, but it wasn't the loud, messy kind. It was the dignified, silent stream type that makes you feel like a war criminal. I kept it together. No tears, no theatrics, just the cold, mechanical execution of a dying relationship. Every thump of the notary stamp felt like I was shooting my marriage in the back of the head while telling it, it's just business. And once that was done, I signed a separate agreement. $7,500.00 in exchange for a meeting 1 year post-divorce. My lawyer vetted it, mediator required, therapist optional, just a 2-hour reunion where we pretend to give closure a shot. If I ghost it, I get nothing. If I show up, I get paid. I almost asked for the money in a briefcase full of $10.00 just for the mob movie aesthetic. I did it for her. Not because I had to, not because the lawyers required it, but because her mother told me it would help her in therapy and, God help me, I thought maybe that mattered. Maybe it would give her closure. Maybe it would give me closure. But what I got instead was a front-row seat to the inner monologue of a woman who torched our marriage, doused it in gasoline, and decided I needed to watch the playback in HD. She didn't just confess. She unzipped her guilt and dumped it like garbage on my lap. And I just sat there, jaw clenched, pulse pounding, wondering how the hell I got nominated to be the confessional priest for her sins. I don't think Emily was trying to destroy me. That's what stings most. She wasn't lashing out or being cruel for sport. No, this was her idea of healing. Like reading a Wikipedia article about every degrading moment she shared with another man was somehow supposed to be therapeutic. For me. She's just that far gone. And maybe, in some corner of her warped little fairy tale, she thought that spilling it all out would leave me with what? Empathy? Relief? Forgiveness? Instead, it felt like being dragged through broken glass just so she could say she was honest. If radical honesty is the goal, someone forgot the part where you ask the other person if they want to hear it first. Up until she started describing it, I'd actually felt something close to closure. She said it was all her fault. She didn't blame me, and for a second I believed it was done, that maybe this was the moment I could finally exhale. But then she opened her mouth, and what came out wasn't accountability. It was a horror reel, and I just sat there, frozen, mouth dry, stomach twisting, waiting for it to stop, praying it would stop, and when it didn't, when she pushed further into the grotesque like she was trying to speed-run redemption, I didn't just leave, I escaped. The moment I ran from that room, it was like every ounce of strength in my body gave out all at once. I barely remember the stairs, barely remember the elevator I refused to wait for. My dad was behind me, scrambling to keep up while I was trying not to pass out. We made it to the car, and I collapsed into the passenger seat, shaking like I'd just come out of an ice bath. He cranked the heat, tried to talk to me, asked if I needed the ER, but I couldn't even speak. I was trapped in that moment, her voice, those words, that look on her face while she said them. I didn't want a hospital. I wanted to go home, whatever the hell that means now. He drew a bath for me, a full-grown man, 30 years old, curled up in hot water while his dad sat by the door like I was 7 years old again. He didn't say much, just made sure I didn't drown or shatter into pieces. And when the bath wasn't enough, I collapsed into bed, face buried in the sheets, and just broke. I cried myself into oblivion while he rubbed my back like he used to when I had nightmares as a kid. At some point, I passed out. When I woke up, it was night. My mouth was dry, my head was pounding, and I chugged water like a man dying in the desert. I took some NyQuil just to fall asleep again. Second worst day of my life. Now, legally, we wait. 30 days of paperwork limbo, then the court looks everything over and it goes to a judge. Mid-July if we're lucky. Probably August if we're not. And you know what? I don't care anymore. The only thing I care about is never having to hear Emily's voice again, never having to hear her say my name while she reads off a goddamn grocery list of betrayal like she's filing a tax return. There's no coming back from this. She knew that. She had to know that. And still she did it because someone told her it would help. Help her. The rest of her statement? I don't want to hear it. I don't care if she has more truth to dump in my lap like emotional napalm. I've heard enough. Just the scraps she managed to read before I bolted were enough to haunt me for months, maybe years. After the lawyers left, she started speed reading it like she was in a race, eyes buried behind the paper like a coward. Her voice shook, her hands trembled. But I didn't care. I wasn't looking for signs of regret or bravery. I was just looking for the nearest exit. It stopped being cathartic the moment she started describing the things she let him do to her. She stopped being my ex-wife and turned into a stranger with a megaphone and no sense of mercy. I'd been stuck in a fog since that day. My therapist gently floated the idea of medication. I said no. Then I said maybe. Now I'm thinking yes. Everything feels like dragging 100-pound weight through mud. Existing is exhausting. I hate it. I hate the weight, the numbness, the rage hiding behind every breath. I know exercise is supposed to help, so I'm going to throw myself into it. Build the habit, fake the energy until it starts coming back on its own. Something's got to give, and I'm not letting it be me. Not now. Not after everything I've endured. She doesn't get to kill the best parts of me too. I've started going back into the office. Being alone with my thoughts feels like leaving a toddler unsupervised with a box of matches. At least in the office I have distractions. I can fake normal for a few hours and sneak off to a stairwell if I need to sob like a wounded animal. Emily and her family are officially no contact. If they break it and I can prove it, I get the $7,500 0 cents. But that's not the win I want. Money doesn't erase trauma. It doesn't unburn the memories. Right now, I'm not chasing revenge. I'm chasing peace. And peace is still miles ahead. The court has a 30-day waiting period before anything can move forward, and after that, everything goes to the Superior Court for review. Then it's up to a judge to finalize the divorce. We're probably looking at mid-July, maybe August if the system's backed up. I'm not holding my breath. The bureaucracy doesn't care about closure. It just processes paper and stamps pain into file folders. I just want that final decree in my hands so I can set it on fire or frame it like a war medal. Either way, it'll be the last souvenir of a life I didn't sign up for. In the meantime, I'm trying not to let Emily haunt the walls of my mind like some ghost who died screaming. Loving her feels like a terminal illness I have to outlive. It's like learning that the thing that used to nourish you is now poison. Imagine craving your favorite food and knowing one more bite will kill you. That's what this feels like. There's no comfort in anything else because everything else feels fake. But I'll learn. I'll rebuild my appetite for life. Because what's the alternative? Let her win by default? No thanks. I'm filling my prescription for Lexapro, low dose, just enough to dull the edge, so I stop staring into middle distance like a haunted Victorian widow. I talked to my GP. I trust her. My therapist agreed. This isn't forever, it's just training wheels. And if I can get the courage to take back my own mind, maybe I can take back my future too, one breath at a time. The strangest part? I found out what radical honesty was from Bob, yes, that Bob, of all people. When I told the group chat about Emily's graphic confession, Bob piped up like some relationship guru and said, "That's what you do in reconciliation." Matt and Jim nearly fell out of their chairs laughing. That's when Bob sheepishly admitted he's been reading up on reconciliation because he's a hopeless romantic and believes love conquers all. I told him that was adorable, and also completely deranged. People have been asking why we had to wait on the notary. It wasn't some dramatic delay. It was a very pregnant woman who said her unborn kid thought her bladder was a trampoline. As for the timeline, the actual divorce was signed, sealed, and notarized before Emily started her monologue. By then, her little confession wouldn't have changed a single legal thing. She could have claimed she cheated on me with Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, and it still wouldn't affect the outcome. The legal job was done. The emotional napalm, that came after. Meanwhile, while I was being emotionally waterboarded, my dad was outside chatting with my mother-in-law. According to him, she seemed crazy and just wouldn't stop talking. She apparently told him she ordered Emily to do whatever the books and therapists say to win me back, which explains why Emily tried to speedrun a reconciliation while my soul was trying to crawl out of my mouth. Like a bad patch-up date, she tried to overwrite years of damage in one bug-filled meeting. What keeps me up at night isn't the betrayal anymore, it's the confusion. I think I get why she cheated. I mean, if some rich, hot, 25-year-old bikini model decided I was her soulmate and whispered all the right things, I'd be tempted to. But why try to come back to me after all that? It's not about money. She's got her business and it's finally making a profit. She's already proven she can bag a rich idiot who throws gifts at her like breadcrumbs to a duck. So why cling to the guy she betrayed so completely? I wasn't some codependent doormat. I had my own friends, my own hobbies. I didn't orbit around her like a lovesick moon. I just loved her the way you're supposed to love someone, freely, kindly, without keeping score, and apparently that made me the safe, boring option. So why would she want that back? Habit? Laziness? The fear of having to train someone new on what she likes in bed? Don't flatter me, I'm not that unique. I'm not a limited edition emotionally available man with a sense of humor you can only get once. And she knows she's attractive. She could land a good guy tomorrow, so why me? I've tried asking women I trust. Lisa, Matt's wife, Jim's wife, but they're not cheaters. They can't crawl inside that headspace. I even went to a subreddit for waywords to try and understand, but my post got deleted. Apparently, even cheaters think I'm too messy, which is saying something. So now I'm stuck in this weird mental limbo, trying to solve a puzzle where half the pieces are lies and the other half are trauma confetti. I've decided to just accept that I'll never really understand what was going through her head. It's like trying to explain why a lunatic shot up a preschool because the sky was too blue. Sometimes there is no deeper reason, just broken people doing broken things. That's the only closure I'm likely to get. On a more productive note, I had my lawyer forward a copy of Emily's confession to Lisa's legal team. They need all the ammo they can get. I kept a copy for myself, too. Some light bedtime reading in case I ever start missing her and forget why this had to end. I thought my original list of her betrayals was enough to keep me grounded, but this is the nuclear option. The heartbreak equivalent of pepper spraying your own nostalgia in the face. And for the record, I didn't sit through Emily's confession because I had to. It wasn't legally required. No judge said, "Thou shalt listen to thy ex-raunchy guilt spiral." I did it because Emily said it would help Emily with therapy. I figured, fine, if this helps her fix herself, maybe it'll prevent her from screwing up someone else down the road. What I didn't expect was for her to turn me into her trauma dumping ground and go full confessional porn priest on me. She didn't stop at owning what she did. She went off-screen into the gory details like I was her personal confessor and she needed to get every ounce of filth off her soul. It started as catharsis, sure. Sorry, it was all on me. But then it turned into this unsolicited verbal reenactment of her affair, as if narrating her humiliation somehow made up for it. I just sat there, frozen, blinking, wondering if I was being punked. It wasn't deliberate cruelty. It was worse, unfiltered honesty from someone so emotionally tone-deaf she thought this counted as closure. And I didn't stop her. Not at first. I froze like a deer in a spotlight made of vomit. Then the fight-or-flight instinct finally kicked in, and since slapping the words out of her mouth wasn't an option, I bolted. Mill called after me like she was surprised I didn't want to sit through the rest of the Pornhub script. My dad chased me out of there like, oh hell, he's gone full meltdown, at the stairs like the building was on fire, gasping like I was drowning, like someone had detonated a cold gator balloon inside my chest. We made it to the car and my dad drove me home while I shook uncontrollably and tried to remember how lungs work. Tunnel vision, teeth chattering. He wanted to take me to the ER. I told him to take me home. I didn't want doctors. I wanted a blackout. I wanted this whole damn day erased. When we got home, I felt like a soaked rag someone had wrung out and thrown on the floor. My dad, bless the man, ran a hot bath for me. 31 years old, and my father was helping me bathe like I was a toddler fresh off scraping my knees on the playground. All I was missing was my rubber duck and Ninja Turtle shampoo. He didn't ask questions, didn't try to fix anything, just quietly helped me strip off the cold, sweat-soaked clothes, got me into the tub, and sat nearby. I couldn't make sense of anything beyond the sheer ache of existing. Afterward, I dragged myself to bed like a corpse in a crime scene, pulled the blanket over my head and sobbed until my eyes felt like crumpled paper. He rubbed my back while I crumbled, and I let him. I wasn't a man in that moment. I was wreckage. When I woke up, it was night. My mouth felt like it had been scrubbed with sandpaper, and I downed nearly a gallon of water trying to undo the dehydration. I took some NyQuil, not because I was sick, but because I wanted sleep to pull me back under like a warm tide and hold me there. Just one full night where my brain didn't play a slideshow of betrayal, filth, and confessions I never asked to hear. That day still sits like a splinter in my soul. I've had car accidents, lost friends, dealt with grief, but nothing even touched this. So here's the legal rundown, as best I understand it through the fog. We've signed and notarized everything. There's a mandatory 30-day waiting period before it's all reviewed by the court and passed to a judge. That means I'm in limbo until at least mid-July, but probably longer if the system's backed up. Maybe August. Maybe later. And I just don't care anymore. The date doesn't matter. The papers don't matter. She handed me her confession like it was a gift wrapped in barbed wire and expected me to unwrap it with a smile. She thinks she's healing. Maybe she is, but I'm just trying not to sink. I don't care to hear another syllable of her confession. Every detail I already heard was too much. I don't care if she had a grand epiphany halfway through the monologue and started quoting scripture. None of it matters. The second she started describing what she let him do to her, I stopped being a person in that room. She lost the right to talk to me like a human being when she reduced herself to a play-by-play narrator of her own infidelity. That wasn't vulnerability, it was obliviousness. Or maybe punishment disguised as closure. Either way, I didn't consent to be her emotional dumping ground. She started reading faster toward the end, like a guilty kid trying to rush through chores. Her voice was trembling, but not from regret, more like someone reciting a eulogy for a goldfish. Her face stayed buried behind the pages, like she was hiding, and honestly, I wish she had. I'm done absorbing pain so she can feel better. Right now, I'm stuck in this purgatory of grief, paperwork, and identity crisis. Loving Emily has become a fatal allergy. It's like being told that the air I've always breathed is now poison, and the only solution is to stop breathing. My therapist suggested meds. I didn't want that. But now, maybe, because everything feels like heavy lifting, eating, showering, pretending to care about small talk. I know exercise would help. I know sunshine is free. I know endorphins exist. But logic doesn't matter when your heart feels like it's been shot point blank by someone who once whispered they'd protect it forever. I've decided to start going into the office again, just so I'm not home alone with my thoughts, staring into the fridge like it holds the answer to my life falling apart. I need structure. I need to work. I'll take bathroom breaks to cry if I have to, but I can't sit here and marinate in self-pity. Emily and her family are officially no contact now, legally tied to the $7,500 0 cents agreement. If they break it, and I can prove it, I get the money. But that's not even a thought right now. I'm not hoping for them to mess up so I get paid. I just want silence. I want peace. I want my goddamn dignity back. And if that comes with a side of cash, so be it. But the real win is the quiet. I don't think she was trying to hurt me on purpose, which ironically makes it worse. I think she's just that far gone emotionally. Maybe it's even partially my fault for staying strictly no contact. But even then, I was clear in my letter. No reconciliation, no reunion. Maybe MIL never read it, since I sent it directly to Emily. Or maybe Emil and Phil are pressuring her behind the scenes. Whatever the reason, she didn't just own up to her betrayal. She tried to offload the entire weight of it onto me, like I was some kind of emotional dumping ground in a confessional booth. For a second, hearing her take responsibility without blaming me was almost cathartic, but that moment died fast. As soon as she started galloping into the gory details, I froze. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was this real? Was I being punked? Then came the fight or flight. I couldn't exactly punch her in the jaw to shut her up, so I bolted. That's when I ran. The $7,500 0-cent deal? Completely optional. The money's set aside in escrow or something like that. Has nothing to do with the divorce itself. Just a side agreement. The idea, I guess, is that a year apart will make us miss each other and reunite like something out of a Nicholas Sparks novel. Cue slow motion, emotional music, big romantic Broadway number, then wedding bells. Nope, not happening. The reality? She's already erased what we had. There's no fixing that. This wasn't a love story, it was a cautionary tale, and I lived it. And that's it, that's the last of it. The confession's over, the papers are signed, the damage is done. What comes next is healing, however long that takes. I don't know if I'll ever love like that again. I don't know if I even want to. But I know I'm walking away with clarity, scars, and a mountain of hard-earned peace. No more lies, no more apologies, no more wondering. Just one step forward at a time, alone, but lighter. And for now, that's enough. Love is supposed to heal, not hollow you out, and when the truth hurts more than the lie ever did, walking away isn't weakness, it's survival. If you made it through this emotional gauntlet, you're officially part of the healing crew. Tap that like if you've ever had to rebuild from rubble. Subscribe for more raw, unfiltered stories of betrayal, justice, and bittersweet redemption. And don't forget to comment below, would you have stayed for the confession, or walked out when the pen hit the divorce paper? Because part 7 is on the way, and while the papers are signed, the scars are still fresh. You don't want to miss what comes next.